Jill's world unravels after she receives flowers from a secret admirer and her jealous husband, Bernard, accuses her of cheating. When her mystery fan appears on her doorstep, his sinister motives leave her trapped, until someone makes a mistake. Jill's morning started with a surprise, a delivery man and a fragrant bouquet. The scene of roses and lilies filled the air as she carried them into her luxurious home. Bernard, her husband, emerged from the shadows, and his eyes narrowed at the flowers. "Who sent those?" His voice held an edge that put Jill on guard. "I don't know," she stammered, searching for a card. "Maybe a wrong address?" Bernard snatched the note, his voice tight. "To my lovely Jill." "So, am not the only one?" He glared at her. "Who is it? Some idiot lover?" Jill's heart sank as Bernard's face contorted with rage. "Bernard, Therese, no one else. I have no idea," she said, reaching for him, but he flinched away. "That's ridiculous. Just because Jill's protest died as Bernard smashed the bouquet against the stairs, petals raining down like angry tears. "I'm leaving," he bellowed, storming to the door after grabbing an overnight bag. Jill ran after him, calling out, "Bernard, wait. Where are you going? Some of us work for a living, Jill." "I have a business trip." "God. You never listen," he snapped, not pausing for a second. He reached his car and grabbed a folder from the back seat. "Here. Lester will pick this up tonight." "Give it to him, if you're not too busy," he demanded, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Jill's heart plummeted as Bernard got into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and drove away. "But who sent the flowers?" Jill demanded on the phone. Yet, the worker at the florist shop responsible for the bouquet wouldn't help her. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, so she hung up and sighed as she walked to the front door. Outside was a drenched Lester, who held another bouquet in his hands. "These are for you," he said awkwardly. Jill took a step back, surprised. "Thank you, but why?" Lester's smile faltered. "Because you deserve them. I sent the ones this morning too. Did you get them?" "You?" Lester shrugged, smiling. "Can I come in? It's pouring and I need to talk." Jill hesitated, then stepped aside. "Of course, come in. You're soaked. Coffee?" Lester followed, leaving a trail of water on the floor, while Jill stared at the flowers, confused. Lester had been Bernard's co-worker for years and had never shown romantic interest in her. Jill didn't have time to dwell as she guided her husband's friend to the kitchen. Lester sat at the bar table, drying off with a towel she offered. "Thanks, Jill." "Perfect," Lester said. "Could you get the folder Bernard left? Then we can discuss important things." "Sure, it's in the hallway," Jill said, frowning, and walked away to retrieve it. Once he was left alone, Lester's smile vanished. He glanced around nervously, then pulled a small package from his pocket and emptied some powder into her coffee, while double-checking that she hadn't come back. The powder dissolved without a trace. Jill's returning footsteps startled him. He fumbled with the empty packet, accidentally dropping it unseen beside his chair. But he remained calm and poker-faced. "Here you go," Jill said, handing over the folder. Then, she took a sip of her cup and frowned. "This tastes off. Is it strange for you?" Lester's heart hammered, but his face remained composed. "Old coffee grounds? Maybe," Jill murmured, unconvinced. She set the mug down, pushing it away. An awkward, uncomfortably long silence stretched between them. She was trying to find the right words to say. "Lester," she began, clearing her throat, "why the flowers?" Lester squirmed, his smile replaced by nervous dread. Taking a deep breath, he confessed, "Jill, I've been in love with you since we met. I can't keep quiet anymore. I know," he whispered, "but my feelings are out of control." Could there be a chance? Even a sliver? Jill's heart ached for him, but her loyalty held firm. "Lester, you're kind, but I love Bernard. We're committed." Disappointment etched itself onto Lester's face, but he nodded, accepting her words. "I understand. I just needed to know." Smiling sympathetically, Jill reached across the table and patted his hand. "I won't tell Bernard. Let's pretend this never happened." "Thank you, Jill." "That means more than you know," he murmured, nodding. When the storm outside quieted, Jill rose from the kitchen bar. "The rain seems to have stopped. I think you should leave, Lester." But as she led him to the door, dizziness struck her. She fought to stay upright by grasping a chair. "Jill? Are you okay?" he asked and wrapped her in his arms. Jill was too disoriented to protest his touch. "I feel sleepy, suddenly." Her vision blurred further and finally, darkness surrounded her. But Lester was there to catch her whole weight, and a sinister smile spread across his face. The bedroom door slammed open. Bernard stormed in, phone held high like a weapon. Its camera pointed at the bed where Jill and Lester lay, naked and exposed. Jill's eyes flew open too quickly, like waking from a nightmare, and she took in the scene before her. Bernard was taking pictures, and beside her, Lester's naked body stirred. She straightened in bed, wrapping her body tightly with the comforter. "It's not what it looks like," she croaked, feeling moisture gathering in her eyes. "Oh, really? Explain this, sweetheart," Bernard sneered. Jill breathed, still trying to piece together what had happened and what was currently taking place. "What happened? Why are you here? Why is Lester?" She trailed off as she registered her pounding headache. Bernard's smirk widened. "Never left for that trip, Jill. Just parked outside, waiting to catch your lover." Now I have proof. Memories of her sleepiness last night returned, and realization dawned in her mind. Bernard's accusations, being in bed with Lester, although she couldn't remember why. Was she being framed? "Don't play innocent. It's clear as day," Bernard scoffed. Meanwhile, Lester refused to look into Jill's eyes. Instead, he scrambled to his feet, clutching his clothes. "Bernard, let me explain." "Shut up. Get out," Bernard roared, pointing towards the door. Lester ran off, like a dog with its tail between its legs, and Bernard turned to Jill with a smirk darkening his face. "Got what I needed," he muttered. "Bernard, you have to believe me. I wouldn't save it," he interrupted, his voice devoid of affection. "Get a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce." With that, he left, slamming the door with finality. Jill remained frozen for a while in that bed. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them back, steeling herself. Something wasn't right. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. She decided to clear her mind and decide what to do going forward. But as she swept under the kitchen, a crumpled packet caught her eye. "Sleeping powder?" she muttered, her brow furrowing as she stared at the empty plastic baggie. Something in her mind, like putting together puzzle pieces. This explained her sleepiness, meaning Lester had planned it. But was Bernard in on it? The doorbell sliced through the silence, jolting her out of her speculation. Hesitantly, she approached, and her eyes widened at a delivery guy standing there with another bouquet. "Delivery for Mrs. Davis," he chirped, a touch too cheerful. "Absolutely certain, Mom," he confirmed. Mr. Davis paid for it 3 days in advance. These weren't from Lester. Mr. Davis? She repeated. Did you say? The delivery guy's smile faltered. Uh-oh, I wasn't supposed to say that, was I? Panic flickered in his eyes. No, please don't tell my boss. I can't afford to lose this job. Calm down, she said gently. Just tell me, was it Bernard? Relief washed over him. Yes, Mom. But let me check. He pulled out his phone, scrolling frantically. Oh, no. There was a cancellation for today's delivery. I didn't mean any trouble. This just confirmed what Jill had suspected. You haven't caused trouble, she said. In fact, you've helped immensely. The morning sun bathed Lester's house in warmth as Jill stood on his doorstep. He opened the door, surprise flickering across his face before morphing into a fake smile. Jill? This is unexpected. Please, come in, he said. Once they settled onto the sofa, Jill cut straight to the chase. We need to talk about what happened, she stated. Lester squirmed. Of course, he mumbled. Jill took a deep breath. I've been thinking about last night, and it doesn't feel like an accident, she began. More like destiny. Lester's eyes widened. Jill, hear me out, she interrupted, her voice soft. Your confession sparked something. Feelings I never acknowledged. Jill pushed her hair behind her eyes and got closer to Lester on the sofa, placing a hand on his arm. Now, with Bernard and I over, she continued, her words deliberately vague, I've changed my mind about us. I've decided to give Bernard everything he wants in the divorce. Then, we can run away together. What do you say? Lester stared at her, shocked framing his face. After a few seconds, he opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Jill watched him, almost seeing his warring thoughts and how this messed with their plans. Relief and a flicker of satisfaction washed over Jill. Promise me you'll think about it, though, she insisted. Can you get me a glass of water? Eager to leave, Lester stood almost too quickly from the sofa and left, which gave Jill enough time to grab his phone and edit Bernard's contact to her own number. She set the phone back and left before Lester returned. He couldn't help the relief of having her gone. Her visit had thrown him off balance. Clutching his phone, Lester dialed Bernard's only to get a voicemail ping. Luckily for Jill, her husband's friend left her several messages in the coming days. For years my neighbor comes home for 15 minutes in the middle of the day. I finally dared to take a peek. He showed my fiancé's picture to my friend, but his reaction flipped my life upside down. Mom startled to find baby hidden in 13-year-old daughter's room. Jill entered a law firm's conference room, where her soon-to-be ex and their lawyers waited. Bernard sat rigidly in his chair, impatient to have this done. Bernard's attorney pushed a folder across the table once Jill sat down. These outline the property division and moral compensation, she stated, all businesslike. We aim for a swift resolution. Jill met the lawyer's gaze. I doubt the relevance of what you've drawn up, she said, trying to remain impassive. Jill smiled. Does it? Well, she said confidently and placed her phone on the table, pressing play. The room fell silent as Lester's voice filled the air with a damning confession. What am I supposed to do if she starts accusing me? It was your plan, and I followed it perfectly. She was out cold after the sleeping pills, and I stayed put until you arrived. If she gets clingy, I want a bigger cut from the money you get after the divorce. Bernard's confident stance shattered. His jaw clenched, and his eyes narrowed. His lawyer, however, reacted with sharp alarm, pivoting towards him with a look that spoke volumes. When the recording ended, Jill locked eyes with her husband and shrugged. "Seems Lester dialed the wrong number," she said, her voice laced with a bitter edge. "No, wait," Bernard tried to speak, but someone else came into the conference room. "This is Detective Oliveira," Jill announced, almost proudly. "Has here to investigate this. Do you understand what's happening? You drugged me, then offered your friend money to exploit me. What else were you planning?" "Jill, that's not, Bernard." "Silence," his lawyer interjected, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Mr. Davis, it's best to cooperate," the detective advised, flashing his badge. "You're under arrest." "Lester already confessed, Bernard. Now it's your turn to face the consequences," Jill sighed, standing from the table with her head held high. "And don't worry about the divorce. I wouldn't want anything from you anyway." With those words, Jill left, feeling stronger than ever. Bernard's actions had caused immense pain, but they couldn't break her spirit. Tell us what you think about this story, and share it with your friends. It might inspire them and brighten their day.